Most photographers think that compositions or composition in general is about neat frames. It's about how well you executed rules, how many elements you have in leading lines that are driving the attention towards the subject. But in the end, composition is storytelling and evoking an emotion. And so, if you understand these 5 insights that I'm going to share with you, your photos will carry a lot more emotional weight. And that's what we're trying to do. And so, I'm going to switch to my iPad right now, and we're going to start talking about the first insight, which is choose a clear emotional subject. The thing here that I want to talk about and that I want to express is start every shoot, every photo by choosing the emotional center, by choosing the thing that the viewer will feel first. Because if you're having too many things happening, if you, as the creator, as the photographer that took the image, don't know where to look, you don't know what's happening in the photo, you're trying to go through the whole image up, down, top, bottom, bottom, top, left, right, diagonally, in the search for trying to see where the subject is. Instead of telling a story, people are just rushing through an image trying to find what's there to be seen, what's important. And so, if you have a center where the emotion is and you just drive attention towards that point, you're already solving a lot of questions that the viewer might have while they're trying to look into the image. Because if the emotion isn't clear for you, the one that captured it, you can't make it clear for someone else. They can only guess. And so the best thing to do about it is focus in that moment when you're taking the shot on thinking, what do you feel? And what do you want others to feel when they're looking at your image? And so we're going to the second one, which is use space as part of the story. And I have one example here that we can go through. And I'm going to tell you, decide how much space your subject gets. Because it's very important if you're creating the subject or aligning the subject in an environment like this, where you indeed have some leading lines here, driving towards our subject, but it feels tight. It's tight space that feels tense. I got so many questions here about this that I can't solve myself because and I can't answer them just by looking into the photo because there's not enough space. This is not a shot which should be exposed as narrow, as tight, because I can't grab the feeling of the shot. And so what we did was I took the shot with a wide angle, with a wide space, because wide can give you the idea of feeling lonely, of feeling free. And so the whole point of this is that your framing shapes the feeling before anything else does. And so if you want to align a subject somewhere, like I have here, it's aligned, it's grabbing, it drives attention to it through different lines and through different elements. But in the end, you have a sense of scale. You understand how big is actually, how big is the person in the whole image compared to how big the environment is. Let's dive into the third one, which is let your leading elements point toward the feeling is happening. If you're having absolutely nothing there and the viewer don't know doesn't know where to look, you're practically driving the attention away from the shot that is happening instead of driving the attention towards the feeling. And so the viewer needs to have something clearly. Where's the subject? What's the feeling? How are you driving attention towards that? And usually you use lines or shapes that are already in the scene to guide the attention towards the feeling, towards the emotional moment. Because how the viewer's eye moves through the whole image, from which direction, where, is part of the story. I like, whenever I'm having this discussion with my students, I like asking them clearly from the beginning, where would the viewer read the image from? And when they start reading the image, where do they end up? If they start from the left to right, where would they end up? If they start from the right to left, where do they end up? What's the center? Because just just imagine you're having this image printed and you put it in a gallery, and there are 6,000 people that are looking at the same image. None of them will see them the same way, but it's your job as a photographer to guide them towards the same thing. And so whenever you're taking an image, try and think from where, what angle, from which direction is the person reading the image. And if you have enough elements, if you're driving them towards the emotional moment or driving them away. If the eye of the viewer doesn't flow towards emotion, the experience of the image that you took is somehow pushed away. And so we can go forwards to the fourth one, which is introduce a contrast that says something. Put two elements in your frame that differ visually and emotionally. Do select two elements that combine, two elements that create a contrast in the narrative, elements that force the viewer to interpret a relationship, not just to look at the scene, but think of it like this: when you're thinking of a beach, it's implied that you have the sandy part or the rocky part, depends on where the beach is, and you also have the water side. So you create a relationship that the waves are coming towards the shore. Which is the direction of the waves? Usually towards the shore. So you already have a dynamic and a sense of how the things are traveling towards what, where. You have a flow in the image. Because the interpretation of how people would combine the relationship of these two elements is where your story lives. And now let's go to the fifth one and the last one. And it's decide what to hide, what to show. Be intentional of the things that need to be in the frame because they're helping your photo to stand out and to tell a story and to evoke emotions. And there are some elements that literally have nothing to be there. It makes no sense. You could either remove them in post processing or try and see when you're having the camera where you would look when you're looking through the eye finder, viewfinder, which element could just be out. Maybe you move two steps on the right, two steps on the left, and then you get a bit more of an idea of what's happening there, and you're removing that element. And so be intentional about what you leave out of the frame, because usually absence can create curiosity, and curiosity usually triggers people to deepen up in that specific moment. It makes the viewer participate in the story rather than just sitting somewhere in the back and just observing it. And so, in an image like this, if I would remove all these boats from here, it wouldn't quite help me because it's not the focus of them. But if I would just remove this whole boat from here, it will be a lot more empty. And then the story can just happen here by having something, or having a place where someone could work and have his tools or her tools. And the fact that there's no one there creates curiosity, because we have a lot of stuff happening here on the side of it, and there are a lot of bars and cafes. So it's again going back to the previous point, to the fourth one. It's creating a contrast that can say something. The water is so calm. We have the boats where no one is on the boat, and then you have the chaotic scene and feeling from all the bars and cafes along the docks there, along the ship harbor line, whatever. So you're again creating a contrast with these, between these two. And if you want your compositions to, if you want to learn more about compositions and get more in depth, I have a link towards the visual language. It's a breakdown of 10 images that I shot and showing you exactly what elements I used, how I removed the elements, how I'm driving attention, how I'm understanding the psychology of how a person would read the image, and how I'm playing with the elements and editing so that I'm driving the attention towards where I want the viewer to look. And if this was useful, I would like to see you in the next one. Cheers.